This past weekend, I attended my first 1K. It was hosted by a local store that I frequent here in town called Clovis Cards and Comics. Shout out to them. And I had a pretty dominant showing. In this tournament, there were 5 rounds of Swiss with a cut to top 4. So there were 7 rounds in total, and I went completely undefeated, 7-0, and I did not drop a single set. So that's 14-0 in sets. What, Peppa? Are you interrupting me? Are you interrupting my video? Come here. Are you interrupting my video? I'm trying to talk about my tournament. Oh, she's crazy, dude. Crazy. You crazy dog. Leave me alone real quick. This is the deck that I brought to the tournament. If you've been watching the streams, you know I've been testing Cad Bane ECL religiously for the past couple of weeks. And it has been performing. I've been really enjoying this list. It's titled Cad instead because I'm playing Cad Bane instead of my beloved Boba Fett. Rest in peace, Boba. One of the main aspects of any Cad Bane list is, of course, your leader ability, right? Your ability to ping 1 damage every time you play an Underworld unit. It says that your opponent gets to choose where they place the damage. So one of the main things you want to think about, or the main goals you want to achieve, is only allowing your opponent to have 1 unit to choose for the ping. So essentially, we're choosing where the ping goes. That requires dominating the board, maintaining a powerful board presence while limiting what your opponent's able to have out on the board. And that's why a lot of these ambush units are so important. That's why I have Forlom, Bossk, and Zuckuss all in full play sets. That's why I have things like McClunky. That's why I have things like Waylay. Any way to remove units from my opponent's side of the board and really take advantage of just pinging the crap out of 1 unit. And if you do this properly, this sets up for a lot of 2-for-1s with your ambush units. So if I'm playing Underworld units first turn, second turn, and then I play my ambush unit, like a Forlom, turn 3, I can kill a unit and then trigger Cad Bane's ping to ping the remaining unit, and hopefully that's the one that has had a couple damage on it for the last couple turns. And then Forlom coming in ends up dealing with both units. The other main aspect of this deck is being able to play things much earlier than you normally would be able to play them. And obviously that is with Ramp. We have our Resupply and our Super Laser Technician. And we have Now There Are 2 of them to literally cheat out units. The main targets for Now There Are 2 of them are Bossk and Zuckuss if we play it on turn 2 on 3 resources, or Maul and Cad Bane if we play it on our 5 resource turn. Pepper, stop. Come on. Come on. Come on, baby. Stop it. Stop it. Guys, gotta concentrate. In my opinion, most of the time, the ideal line of play for Now There Are 2 of them has seemed to be Ramp on turn 2, have your 5 resource turn on turn 3, and drop Now There Are 2 of them to bring out a Maul or a Cad Bane. Now, this requires your turn 1 play surviving, your turn 1 Underworld play surviving. That's why, like, Crafty Smuggler is really good for turn 1, because he has a shield. He's a very sticky unit, right? Pepper, seriously? I'm sorry, baby. I feel so bad. Come here. Those are kind of the main things we're thinking about with this list. Those are the main lines of play we're looking for. Obviously, there are other tools we have at our disposal, but those tend to be matchup dependent, and those are things I'll get into as I talk about the tournament. Round 1 of the event, I was paired into a Vader Green. Now, Vader Green always worries me. I don't get very many reps into him because not many people play him. But this style of deck, this kind of unit-based control, ramping deck tends to be my biggest weakness with an ECL style list like this. Now, even though this style of deck tends to be a weakness of mine, I was able to get some really dominant board presence early by getting these 2-for-1s with my ambush units like I described earlier. 4-Alarm comes in, kills something, Cad Bane ping finishes off the other unit, things like that early. And then later I was able to get some clutch plays with Xanadu Blood, especially against decks that have these like big units. Like Vader comes out, boom, he gets a lightsaber. Xanadu Blood could come down, tap Vader, and then I could bounce like a Bazine back to then play again and start removing some of his key late game cards. And Bazine was another MVP. I was able to get rid of Ramp. I was able to get rid of key barrages. Those types of things are really what won me these games. So after a couple really close, really grindy games, I was able to take it 2-0. Round 2, I was matched into a Quinlan Tarkentown. Now, before this, on stream a couple times, I was jamming games against Quinlan Tarkentown, and I was not performing as well as I thought I should in these games. Quinlan Tarkentown seemed to be a really, really tough matchup for me, especially if they just focus on being super aggressive. It's really hard to get rid of their board, and it's really hard to maintain the board presence that we really need to win games like this. A lot of these games end up being just pinging battles. Like our units are just pinging, ambushing into each other. It's just an absolute bloodbath. And usually a lot of times Quinlan's able to come out on top because he deploys earlier. He has more aggressive units. He has more ways to buff his units, and it becomes a struggle. And then in the end game, Han Solo comes down and just wipes out any of my big units he wants, right? And Quinlan, Han can come down and hit for 7 damage and not take anything back. It's ridiculous. The key I'm looking for in these types of games, these Quinlan Tarkentown games, usually these yellow-red hero decks tend to go into space with things like Red 3, A-Wing, Falcon, and they're really just space aggro. So if I can pull off a well-timed ECL P38, that can really swing things in my favor. P38's a really sweet ECL target because when he's played, he deals the damage. When he dies, he deals the damage. So I can end up dealing 5 damage. I could kill a Falcon, no problem, by ECLing a P38 in. Or you could do some really sweet 2-for-1s. You can ECL P38, ping something, kill something else, ping that thing again, finish that off. There's some really good combos against aggro decks that you can pull off. I love P38. I love using ECL on it. So besides that, another thing I'm looking for is a good now there are 2 of them play. Typically, I don't want to just slam a Zuckuss turn 2 with now there are 2 of them because they could have an answer for it, like Waylay, or maybe they just deal some damage to it and then they Tarkentown it and then I wasted 2 cards, right? I'd say the best way to use now there are 2 of them against Quinlan is waiting till 5 resources and trying to get a well-timed Maul out. Especially if we ramp. If I could get Maul out before Quinlan flips, Maul can just threaten Quinlan. Or if I could get a Maul out on the Quinlan flip, I just one-shot Quinlan. Things like that. Really getting rid of Quinlan is one of the biggest ways to win these games because he is a scary unit. So by utilizing some of these key strategies, I was able to take this 2-0. Round 3, I was paired into a Yoda blue. Now, the double blue hero is always a very interesting deck. I think last set it was really Ray blue that was kind of showing itself in tournaments. But now there's kind of a similar play style with Yoda blue. And getting Vigilance for 4 is no joke. I would say the main thing here is that it was simply really hard for my opponent to come back when now there are two of them, turn two, pull out a Zuckuss. He doesn't have an answer for it. So then the next turn, I'm able to ambush in 4-long for 5, completely have his board clear. Now I have a 5-5 and a 7-7, and then whatever my turn 1 play was. And even if he has some sort of removal, like a takedown or a fell the dragon, it's almost too late to spend an entire turn doing that, right? So doing things like that, I was able to really have an aggressive board presence, and it was really hard for him to come back from it, even with vigilance. Another main thing here was that I don't remember which game it was, but he killed a unit. He's on 7 resources, and I was like, man, I can feel a Luke coming on. You're setting up for a Luke. And so I played Bazine. He in fact had Luke in his hand, and really it was only his only really good play. I discarded a Luke. He didn't draw into anything, and then I just ended up winning that game. Things like that, there was really no way for him to stop the pressure I was putting onto him. That's pretty much what happened both games, and I was able to take it 2-0. Now, round 4 is a matchup I was very, very worried about. I faced against my buddy Jackson, who was running Palp green. Now, like I said, with the Vader green matchup, it's really difficult for me to face these sort of unit-based control decks that are just looking to ramp like crazy and play huge units to finish out the game. And honestly, Palp green might be the worst of them all. Now, when I'm going into a Palp game, what I've kind of discovered to work really well is just make sure that Palpatine does not have a unit to sacrifice. Constantly, I just want to kill whatever unit he plays so he can't draw any cards with Palp's ability. That's where Palp gets a lot of his value, is just drawing all game, just sacrificing whatever chump units he plays out, making sure he has nothing to sacrifice is a really big way to kind of dry them out and make sure they don't have an answer to your game plan. Continuing to keep their board clear also makes sure that they don't have any barrage targets. His overwhelming barrage on a big unit can really just crush you, right? Especially a deck that's trying to be a little bit aggressive, trying to go wide on the board. Barrage can really just wipe you out. Pretty much everything I needed to happen happened. And so, you know, it was a combination of luck and just knowing what to play and when to play it. Turn 1, I was able to play a Greedo. He plays a Poggle Lesser. I had a McClunky in hand, so I McClunkied for 4, McClunky damage and the Cad Ping to wipe out his Poggle turn 1, and that was a huge swing. I really think the fact that he wasn't able to produce droids with his Poggle, he wasn't able to get Sentinel on his Royal Guard that he played, that ended up being a really big deal throughout this match. He was able to double ramp both games, but the main thing that happened for me was on his Palp flip, he would steal, game 1 it was a Bossk, game 2 it was a Zuckuss, and both games I played Cad Bane unit to capture my unit. And so if he dealt with Cad Bane, or if he rescued those units on attack, I would just get my unit back. And so his Palp not being able to steal anything was really what won me those games. I was able to keep his board clear, drop a Cad Bane to steal my unit back. Both games, it happened exactly the same. And that was pretty lucky. I will admit that. This is a really tough matchup, but if things go exactly that way, it's pretty hard to beat me in that case, right? Round 5, I got matched into a Bossk Blue. My guy, Koi, you see him in the chat as Swifty. He's always popping in the streams and chatting with you guys, so shout out Swifty. He's been grinding Bossk Blue, and we were playing games on stream, and I felt pretty prepared for this. I think before playing games against him, I felt pretty bad against hard control, but after getting reps with him, kind of understanding the matchup a lot better, I catered my sideboard completely to control because of how scared I was of it, right? I have the Lurking TIE Phantoms, the Palpatine's Return, the Relentless, and a couple Vaders just for this control matchup. And I don't know if I need to go that hard in the sideboard for it, but they really, really make this game a lot simpler. Game one, I don't have these amazing sideboard cards, right? So all I'm thinking game one is I just have to go as fast as possible. Basically, the way these games go is I'm just spamming units and they're just dying every turn. I'm just getting 1-for-1 every turn with Power of the Dark Side, Merciless Contest, Takedown, Fell the Dragon. That's all that's happening for the first half of the game is I'm just playing a unit, it's dying. Play a unit, it dies. And I'm just trying to get my poor troops to his base. And they just die as they rush towards it. But if I am able to push enough damage, I have so many threats in my deck. If I'm able to play enough threats to where he does not have enough removal, and I'm able to Bazine him at key times to get rid of his Super Laser Blast or his big units at the end game, then things can really go in my favor really quickly. And that's exactly what happened. I went too fast. My Bazine got rid of a key Super Laser Blast, and he was not able to draw another one. And sometimes that's all it takes is, oh, you didn't draw your Super Laser Blast at the right time, then I win. Now, I will say, another thing is, if he's not able to deal with my Cad Bane, I think in one of these games, I was able to double Hot Shot Blaster my Cad Bane, so he's hitting for 8, and he didn't have a clean way to deal with him other than, like, Power the Dark Side. And I would always have, like, a Bazine or a Card Smuggler out to block that Power of the Dark Side, right? I will say there was one moment where he had the line to deal with my Cad Bane. He was prepared, but I think he used up a Power of the Dark Side when he could have used a Merciless Contest earlier in the game. And that Merciless Contest ended up being in his hand instead of the Power of the Dark Side when my Cad Bane was all by himself. So I think if there wasn't that misplay, he might have been able to take game one. And I do think game one is his main chance to win. Because game two, I'm sideboarding in my Relentless and my Palp's Return and my Lurking TIE Phantoms. And it's really, really difficult to deal with those things for blue. Any blue control deck has a problem dealing with Relentless. So I took that game 2-0. And I was undefeated in Swiss. I was 5-0, securing my spot in the top 4. So as I was the number 1 seed in top 4, I ended up playing whoever was 4th seed, which was a Quinlan Tarkentown. So it was me and Quinlan Tarkentown. On the other side of the bracket, we had the Bossk Blue. I played in the final round of Swiss, Swifty, and my buddy Jackson on Palp Green. Now, Quinlan Tarkentown, very similar deal as before. I'm looking for that P38 ECL. I'm looking for cheating out Maul on Resource 5. And honestly, if my turn 1 play doesn't survive, if I don't have an Underworld unit out, but I ramped and we get to Resource 6, I could still, now there are 2 of them on Resource 6, on their Quinlan flip, right? And that's usually, you know, GG right there. Now, none of that happened in these games. And they were really, really, really tight games. We were really back and forth, just slaughtering each other's units. And one of the main things it came down to is he was not drawing his Hans at the end of the game. He had to resource them early. You know, a Bazine came out and got rid of one of them. He was not able to get down a Han unit. And that was the big difference maker. Han unit is usually the nail in the coffin for my list. And so with a combination of, you know, strategies, similar strategies as the first time I played Quinlan Tarkentown, I was able to take this 2-0. Now, on the other side of the bracket, the Palp Green was actually able to beat Bossk Blue in Swiss. But this time around, Bossk Blue takes it. It went all the way to 3 games, and they were super, super close, but ultimately Palp could not deal with his big units at the end of the game, and Bossk Blue was able to do it. That's a very difficult uphill battle, but he found a way and got to the finals. So the finals is a rematch between me and my boy Swifty, Bossk Blue versus Cad ECL. And these games went exactly like the previous ones. The same crap happened, and I won 2-0. I wish there was something that happened differently in these games to make it a little more exciting to talk about, but ultimately it went exactly the same. And I was able to win game 1 by rushing him down. He couldn't deal with my Cad Bane. And game 2, Relentless comes in, Palp's return comes in, and that recursion along with Relentless just seals the deal. There was actually one play in the finals that was pretty sick with Xanadu Blood, and this showed me something that Xanadu Blood can do to shut down some of some of this blue control stuff. Now, I had a Relentless out, and like 2 other units. I had Xanadu Blood, Relentless, and Maul. He had a fat board. He played a Merciless contest at 11 resources, so he goes down to 8 resources. Merciless contest does nothing because of Relentless. Now he's clearly setting up a Super Laser Blast, right? I didn't have a Bazine to discard it or anything. I was like, oh man, what can I possibly do? And then I see my Xanadu Blood. And I remember I can tap his resources. So I attack him with Xanadu Blood, bounce back my Maul, and I tap down one of his 8 resources, putting him to 7, and he could not play his Super Laser Blast. And that's literally what ended up winning me the game. If he was able to Merciless Contest into Super Laser Blast, things would have been a lot different. But that Xanadu Blood was able to tap down a resource and put him out of Super Laser Blast range. So I really love that aspect of Xanadu Blood, and I learned through this tournament that Xanadu Blood is pretty freaking clutch, dude. When it works, it works. So that was the tournament. I came out on top, and it felt pretty amazing. I feel really good about this list. There's not much that I think I want to change about it right now. Couple considerations. Sabine is really difficult still. I've been losing to Sabine on Carabast, and it feels horrible. I'm thinking maybe adding in some Overwhelming Barrage. That might shock people that I'm not even running Overwhelming Barrage at all. But there might be some room in the main board for it, so that's a card I'm considering. And I'm also considering switching up the sideboard a little bit to play better into aggro. Maybe add some aggro sideboard. Maybe not go so heavy into sideboarding for control, right? So those 2 things, as I stream and get some more testing in, those are things I'll consider. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching, and the streams have been getting a lot of viewers lately, and that's been awesome. So make sure you check those out. I stream here on YouTube, and I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Peace.